Shalom from Israel to all of the Daystar viewers around the world. I'm Moshe Bar Tzvi, the producer and founder of Israel Now News. We at Israel Now News are dedicated to bringing you the full story and the truth about Israel from Israel. It's written in the Holy Bible when David said in Psalm 25:5, "Lead me in your truth and teach me, for you are the God of my salvation. For you I wait all the day long." And God says in Zechariah 8:16, "These are the things that you shall do. Speak out the truth to one another. Judge with truth and judgment to peace in your gates. And always search for the truth, and the truth shall set you free." John 8:31. I hope you enjoyed the program. God bless you from Jerusalem. Shalom, shalom.
Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El Rom.
And I'm Rebecca Rand.
In our top story, the Arab League has drafted a resolution refusing to recognize the Jewish state. The document, which was written during a two-day summit in Kuwait, details the Arab League's absolute and categorical refusal to recognize Israel as a Jewish state, and it rejects all pressure to this effect on the Palestinian leadership. The resolution calls on Arab states to provide $100 million in financial aid to the Palestinian Authority every month. This move is a huge blow to the already failing U.S.-sponsored peace process. In a desperate attempt to keep the talks afloat, U.S. President Barack Obama met with PA terrorist leader Mahmoud Abbas in the White House in mid-March. Rebecca Rand has more on that story.
Yochanan, Mahmoud Abbas reportedly refused compliance on 3 of the core issues in the current round of peace negotiations. In his meetings with U.S. President Barack Obama, Abbas said the Palestinians will not recognize the right of the Jewish state to exist, they will not commit to the end of the terrorist war against Israel, and they will not abandon the so-called right of return. Abbas used the meeting with Obama to demand the release of 3 high-profile terrorists, whose release Israel says is not up for discussion. Abbas was greeted with a hero's welcome upon his return to Ramallah by crowds of Palestinians, urging him to resist concessions for a peace agreement. Speaking at an emergency meeting of the Fatah Central Committee, Abbas said that the U.S. had exerted pressure on him to make heavy concessions, but he vowed that he will not settle for anything less than a fully autonomous Palestinian state with Jerusalem as its capital. And he promised that the Palestinians would be victorious.
An Egyptian court has sentenced 529 members of the Muslim Brotherhood to death. Cairo recently declared the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization, and Egyptian security forces have been systematically rounding up members of the group in a move that clearly demonstrates Egypt's intent to eradicate Islamic terrorism within the country. There's also been a major crackdown on terrorists in the Sinai, as well as Palestinians affiliated with Hamas. We reported last week that Egypt has destroyed thousands of smuggling tunnels into Gaza, a move which has further crippled the economy of the Hamas-run enclave.
The IDF has uncovered one of the biggest and most elaborate terror tunnels to date. The underground passageway stretches several hundred meters from Gaza into Israel. A spokesperson for the Army said that a working generator was found in the tunnel, as well as excavation tools signifying recent activity. He said the tunnel is of high quality, and it appears that much thought was put into it. He added that it was designed for the purpose of kidnapping Israeli soldiers or to carry out a major terrorist attack.
American satellite images have revealed pictures of a U.S.-type aircraft carrier off the coast of Iran. The intelligence community believes that this model, meant to look like an American naval vessel, was built by Iran for either simulation or black propaganda. A spokesperson for the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet in Bahrain said, "Based on our observations, this is not a functioning aircraft carrier. It is a large barge built to look like an aircraft carrier." Some intelligence sources believe that Iran plans to blow up the ship and tell the Iranian people that they sank a U.S. aircraft carrier. Iranian media sources reported that the mock ship is part of a movie set being used to film an anti-American propaganda movie.
The Israeli Prime Minister's office has released a statement confirming that 8 of 11 Iranian Jews who went missing in 1994 and 1997 were killed by the Iranian government. Two groups of Jews attempted to defect from the hardline Islamic Republic in the 90s and disappeared during their escape attempt. Israel's Mossad security agency has been investigating their disappearance since that time, and that last week confirmed that several Jews had been killed. According to reports, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu recently established a special task force to re-examine evidence in the case. Netanyahu released a statement saying, "I send my condolences to the family and hope they find solace in the information they received. We will continue doing whatever is in our power to get possible information about those who have gone missing."
A Jewish man was brutally beaten and branded in Paris last week in an attack clearly motivated by anti-Semitism. The victim, a teacher at a Jewish school, was beaten, pinned to the ground, and branded with a swastika on his chest. The assailants kicked him repeatedly, shouting, "Death to Jews." The Jewish community of France has been paralyzed by increasing anti-Semitic violence. They are afraid to wear kippahs, traditional Jewish head coverings, and other religiously identifying marks in public. 2 years ago, a Muslim terrorist opened fire on a Jewish school, killing the school's rabbi, his 2 young sons, and an 8-year-old girl. A leader of the French Jewish community said that he is encouraging young Jews to immigrate to Israel. He said that way they can thrive in the open practice of Judaism, emancipated and without constant fear.
Last week, threatening text messages were sent to Israeli citizens from the Hamas terrorist organization. The messages warned Jews that if they want to live, they must leave. Otherwise, it said, rockets are waiting for you. Another message said, the Al-Qassam brigade of Hamas has chosen you to be the next Gilad Shalit, referring to an IDF soldier who spent more than 5 years as a captive of the terror group. The hackers also sent threatening emails to Israelis across the country. A member of Israel's defense establishment released a statement saying the issue is being investigated by authorities.
3 Palestinian terrorists were killed last week in a raid by elite counterterrorism units of the IDF operating in Jenin. According to intelligence sources, the attempted apprehension of the militant Palestinians was the conclusion of a months-long manhunt for the wanted terrorists. Palestinian sources have confirmed that several armed gunmen were inside the house where Hamzu Abu Ahija and several members of the Islamic Jihad terror group made their last stand. Violent riots spread throughout Arab villages protesting the deaths of the terrorists.
2 Israeli soldiers were injured last week when they were pelted with rocks by Palestinians as the soldiers were guarding Rachel's tomb near Bethlehem. An Israeli spokesperson said that mobs of Palestinian youth threw Molotov cocktails at the soldiers and ambushed them by throwing rocks from rooftops. In a related story, Palestinians rioted on the Temple Mount last week to protest a visit to the holiest site in Judaism by a member of the Knesset. The Muslim Waqf, which controls the Temple Mount, heavily restricts visitation by non-Muslims and strictly forbids Christians and Jews from praying there. These 2 groups have become increasingly vocal in their demands for equal rights in visiting the holy site. Last month, a bill was proposed in the Knesset which would allow non-Muslims regular, protected visitation. The mere discussion of shared sovereignty caused outrage throughout the Arab world, and Palestinians staged violent riots at the holy site.
More than 150 Arab Christians protested outside of the European Union's delegation in Tel Aviv. They wanted to draw attention to the EU's silence in relation to the ethnic cleansing of Christians throughout the Middle East. Recently, the Christian lobby sent letters to 18 ambassadors from countries around the world saying the indigenous Christians of the Middle East are being slaughtered, persecuted, discriminated against, and ethnically cleansed in Egypt, Syria, Iraq, Gaza, Lebanon, and the territories controlled by the Palestinian Authority. These crimes continue to be committed without any intervention from Western countries. At the protest, the group's spokesman said, "Here in Israel, where we are given freedom of worship, protection, and a normal life, we cry out to the European Union to safeguard the human rights of Christians in the Middle East. We constantly receive reports from our Christian brethren imploring us for help and envious of our status as Israeli citizens."
Another Israeli high-tech company has made headlines around the world. Last week, media outlets revealed that WaterGen has created the technology to produce clean, cold, drinkable water out of thin air, and that their device is already being used in 7 countries around the world. This remarkable technology pulls humidity out of the air even in desert climates and produces between 10 to 20 gallons of water per day. WaterGen's Vice President of Business Development said that his company has taken atmospheric water purification to a place where it is efficient, energy-saving, and affordable.
More than 26,000 runners participated in the 4th annual Jerusalem Marathon. Nearly 2,500 of the athletes came to Israel from numerous countries around the world. The mayor of Jerusalem spoke to the crowds before the event, saying that one of his goals was to open Jerusalem for the benefit of the world to enjoy, to create opportunities for people to come and experience our city and its touchstones. He said there's no doubt in his mind that the Jerusalem Marathon is on the short list of what one should do at least once in a lifetime.
Hello, I'm Chris Mitchell, author of Dateline Jerusalem and bureau chief for CBN News in Jerusalem. And I wanted to encourage you to come to Jerusalem and the land of Israel. There's no other place on earth quite like it. My wife says when you read the Bible, before you come to Israel, it's like reading it in black and white. But when you come here, then you're kind of reading it in color. You can see the sights in the Galilee where Jesus walked. You can come here to Jerusalem and see the Mount of Olives and the city of Jerusalem. You can see prophecy unfolding before your very eyes. You can see the return of the Jews and what they've made the desert bloom, just like the Bible says it would. And you can see modern day Israel. And you see Israel that you really don't see in the mainstream media. Many times you get a distorted picture of what you see in the media. But when you come here, you can see that Israel is becoming more and more a light to the nations. In many ways, you owe it to yourself to come to Jerusalem for such a time as this.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host Josh Reinstein and we're here on our beautiful rooftop studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Chuck Kopp, the chairman of the Evangelical Alliance of Israel. Chuck, thank you for being on the show.
Good to be here, Josh.
Chuck, tell our viewers a little bit about what is the Evangelical Alliance of Israel.
Well, it's an umbrella organization of evangelical churches and organizations that have banded together for representation and for fellowship in Israel.
Chuck, you've been here almost 50 years in Israel. What changes have you seen in the relationship between the evangelical community and the Israeli community in that time?
Well, I've seen a growing understanding, a growing support for Israel, and it's interesting to watch the church grow in influence and in appreciation of what's going on here.
We're seeing an increasingly influential support from evangelical Christians for the state of Israel. But at the same time, we're seeing a small sect of the evangelical community leaving the fold and starting to defend the Palestinian narrative. We have the Christ at the Checkpoint conference in Bethlehem. How have you seen this all develop over the last 50 years?
Well, it's true. It is a small but a disturbing phenomena. And we want to get the good news about Israel out to our constituents and out to our churches so they don't fall prey to theologies that discount Israel.
The Evangelical Alliance has over 30 organizations under it, and they come from all walks of life and all different countries and communities internationally. How have you been able to act as an umbrella group with such a diverse group of organizations?
It isn't easy, but we do our best, and we try to focus on the essentials and the core issues that unite us and skirt those things which are secondary.
One of the things that you were involved in the past is the Baptist Village, and they have an incredible baseball program that I've been able to see. How have you seen that outreach to the Jewish community in Israel grow in a relationship between the Baptist Village and Israeli society?
Well, it helps to demythologize our presence, and that we are not out to grab them and convert them, and they see that we're just people. We're interested in sport, And the same thing like our own church in Jerusalem. It's airy. It's full of light. It's accessible. You can look in, and there's no mysterious dark corners. It's what you see is what you get.
You can't deny that there's a new relationship between Jews and Christians in the 21st century. What do you think is the future of that relationship?
Well, I hope it only grows. I think that Israel's come a long way to appreciate the evangelical church. My grandfather, for instance, before the State of Israel began, believed in and preached from his church that Israel would be a state. And so he wasn't surprised when it happened in 1948.
Chuck, it's clear that you've dedicated your life to being here in Israel, in Jerusalem. Why is Israel such an important part of your faith?
It's not only where it all happened, but it speaks eloquently of God's faithfulness to the Jewish people, and how can we rest assured in our salvation if we don't believe in a God that's faithful to his former promises.
You know, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
Well, one thing would be to come and visit Israel, come and do something productive. Don't just take, but perhaps volunteer some time at Yad Vashem or one of the other voluntary institutions, and come to know the people. The people are the thing that will draw you back for a second and third time.
Thank you, Chuck, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
This is Jerusalem, Israel's capital city. It's an ancient and modern treasure that is beyond belief. There's a little bit of Israel in all of us. Come find the Israel in you.
Up next, Shining Light from Israel.
I am Palestinian. I didn't have the right to go to work as the Lebanese. This camp is like a prison for me and for my family. In this camp, there's no life.
I feel tired. I think about what will happen if my health gets worse. If she had Lebanese citizenship, she would be covered and only have to pay a small fee. But the problem is she has no citizenship to qualify for the Ministry of Health, so she needs an organization to help her. Humanitarian or Palestinian, I don't know. Urgently, go to the hospital urgently.
Palestinian refugees in Lebanon are barred from 74 professions, which effectively bars them from working.
We don't have any dreams anymore.
We don't have the right of work, the right of education, civil, social security, access to the health care, nothing in Lebanon. That's why we are very impoverished.
The only thing that unites all the Lebanese parties and factions is the desire to prevent Palestinian refugees from obtaining their civilian rights.
We don't have any rights in this country.
We are deprived from all the human rights by the Lebanese government. The children, since they're born, they realize that they are different. They are discriminated and they are neglected. They are margined. They are refused by the surrounding community. They are refused by the state where you are living.
Lebanon is not the only Arab country that is discriminating Palestinians. We're talking about apartheid because it's official. The discrimination is official.
How can this be? We've been like this for more than 60 years.
Only one group is perpetuated as refugees.
I'm hoping to my children. I don't want my children to live how I lived.
In the Arab world, you will find apartheid, but not one demonstration against the Arab countries. All of the protests against only one state on earth.
Israel is an apartheid state.
Israel is actually operating as an apartheid.
Anywhere else, this would be a vacation by a lake. But this is the Sea of Galilee. The wonders of Israel are beyond belief. There's a little bit of Israel in all of us. Come find the Israel in you.
Please stay tuned for the ICEJ report from the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem.
You know, the other day I was just thinking that everything that I have and everything that I know how to do, I learned it from someone. Just the same way I'm walking right now. I learned it when I was born, and then after that, I observed my surroundings, I observed my parents, and then I just learned how to walk. The same way when I went to school, I learned how to read and write because my teachers showed me how to do that. You know, in Philippians 3:17, Paul is talking to the church and saying that imitate me, because Paul was imitating Jesus. So Paul was telling to the church that we need to imitate Jesus, and we need to have mentors. We need to have people who guide us on how to live our lives. You know, in Proverbs 4, we can read that the Word says that the Word will give you insight and wisdom to your life. In Hebrews 4, you can read that the Word is sharper than a two-edged sword. So surely the Bible is the best guide in how to get to know what God wants you and me to do with our lives. Just the same way I'm driving with a car. My driver's instructor when I was younger taught me how to drive because I was following his instructions. While we're driving in our lives, we need to be looking all the time to our surroundings. We need to be looking at others. We need to be looking at the threats and opportunities that life brings us every single day. While we're looking at what's happening out there, one of the important things that we should be looking at is Israel. Because God has used Israel since day one in His plans, and He's still using Israel. So there are certain things in the spiritual life and even in the physical land of Israel that are happening at the moment which will affect our lives, because the Bible says that. So while we're driving our vehicles, we're driving our lives, we need to be looking at our surroundings and one of those surroundings is Israel. So now when you're driving the vehicle of your life and you're looking at your surroundings, God will place people in your vehicle. Because we as Christians, this life is not about us, but it's about us serving others. Just the same way Jesus did. Ephesians 5 says that we are not supposed to sleep, but we need to arise. Just the same way when we're driving the vehicles of our lives, we cannot sleep because we will simply crash. And that's what we're trying to do with Arise. To wake up the new generation and the current generation to live fully for God and to understand the purposes of God towards Israel. So stay connected with us. Go to our website, arisegeneration.org. From there you can see our awesome online magazine, which is Arise Now, and also our weekly radio show, Arise Base. You can also come to the land of Israel and experience it all by yourself and enjoy it from the 15th to the 25th of July in our Arise Summer Tour. So God bless you from Jerusalem, and I hope to see you with us. What an exciting place to be, what an exciting place to visit. I'm talking to you about the land of Israel, the place where Jesus was born, and Jesus did his full ministry and went up to heaven and will come back one day to this very same land. Now you have the opportunity to come and visit this place in the Summer Tour 2014. This place is colorful, it's tasty, it opens the Bible in a new way, and it is very diverse. I will give you a small tour. Now we're in the desert. The beach, culture, history, big city life, awesome food. Israel is not just camels, hummus, and desert. Israel is also modern society, and one of the examples is the city of Tel Aviv, having beautiful beaches like this. In the summertime, these beaches are packed, and you can enjoy also this beautiful beach when we come to the summer tour, to this exact same place. So come along the summer tour 2014 to enjoy the land of Israel.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Rebecca Rand, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us next week for all of your Israel updates.